Directed by Akira Kurosawa, Rashomon is a story about a samurai and his wife being the victims of an attack carried out by the bandit Tajamaru. The husband was murdered and found by a woodcutter. There is a trial and four people share their accounts of what they believe happened. Everyone's stories are different, but the portrayal of the wife stays constant. This is a direct reflection of the opinions held about women in the time period of the film. Despite how the wife is viewed and treated by the male characters in the film, she has a large impact on each story being told.
The wife is perceived as being inferior to the male characters in the film. The wife is continually portrayed as matching outdated gender stereotypes, shown as weak and indecisive. In the bandit's version of the events, the wife attempts to fight back. She is wielding a dagger and he is unarmed. Even with the advantage of having a weapon, she's still unsuccessful in fighting him off. The bandit is laughing as she fights for her and her husband's life. This scene amplifies the sexist belief that women are inferior. The bandit doesn't see her as a threat. The bandit and the husband both treat her as an object, either to be won or discarded. At the end of the bandit's testimony, he was asked about what happened to the woman. He seems confused and then replies that he doesn't know. He had forgotten about her. He says he didn't follow her after she ran away. When provoked to fight for his wife by the bandit, the husband refused. He said he didn't want her anymore because she had been with two men. He claimed that she was tainted and told the bandit that he could have her. Through this exchange, it is apparent that the wife has no say in what happens to her. She is treated as damaged property being thrown away. Short stories such as The No-Name Woman exemplify the thought of a woman as an object. In the story, a woman becomes pregnant and her husband leaves her. Instead of the village coming to the aid of the woman, they ridicule her and believe that she brings dishonor upon her family. Meanwhile, the man who left her was not blamed or deemed responsible for the event, strengthening the ideology that women are just objects that are here for the man's benefit.
Even though she is clearly the victim in this situation, the wife is put in the position of being at fault. The wife's presence is explained to be the reason Tajamaru initiated his attack on the couple. In many of the stories, she is blamed for either committing or encouraging the murder of her husband. The stories told by Tajamaru the samurai and the woodcutter all include the wife encouraging her husband and the bandit to fight over her. Ignoring the fact that she was raped in each story being told, the men talk about the rape and the effect it had on them, rather than thinking about how the wife felt. In the wife's turn of events, she says that after the rape, she fled into the arms of her husband, freeing him and apologizing profusely about what had happened. He clearly doesn't want her anymore, despite how much she tries to prove her allegiance to him. Much like the short story Banana Fish, where the wife continuously stays by her husband despite his faults and problems, but in the end, the man refuses to take her help and her as a lifelong partner. The tone of each story is reflective of the wife's feelings, attitudes, and actions, causing her to be the controlling factor of the story's direction. In the final story, told from the woodcutter's point of view, the wife is not wanted by either of the men. In response to this, she becomes enraged and verbally confronts both the bandit and her husband. The power she exerts here influences the fight scene that follows. As both men feel like their integrity has been challenged, this is the only scene in the movie where the wife shows any type of actual power. For a majority of the film, she is seen as an incompetent, weak woman that is constantly being pushed around. For these few seconds, the wife seems to hold some source of power against the men. Despite the fact that she is mostly depicted as weak in the stories, she actually has a huge influence on each of the characters' stories. Much like the short story Memento Mori, the whole storyline is caused by the tragic event that happened to the wife, yet we only hear about her for a quick moment. In the samurai's version of the story, the wife is a nervous wreck after the incident. She wants to leave with the bandit but demands that he kill her husband first. Using her image of innocence, she is able to take advantage of the bandit to take what she wants. Unfortunately for her, the bandit ends up siding with the samurai. Dishonored by his wife's actions, the samurai ends up taking his own life. All these events were a response to the wife using her disadvantages to her advantage.
Throughout Rashomon, the wife is shown as fearful and helpless. She is seen as an object to be fought for or traded. The wife, even with the disadvantages of being a female during this time period, has a great amount of influence on the feeling and tone of each story. The two men fight in response to her emotions and commands, and in another story, she is manipulated and has no say in the matter. Although she seems like a supporting character, the wife is very central to the storyline. She initiates many exchanges between the other characters and controls the story by exerting her power over the men.